today. So thanks very much for having me. So I'm going to talk a little bit about GDPR, because it is a GDPR conference. So I feel, as I'm British, and of course after Brexit, that I need to make a joke out of that. So, first of all, we are a global organisation, and all global organisations should understand GDPR. To speak on behalf of the rest of the British companies, so we also appreciate that GDPR counts. And if none of those facts have convinced you, one of my family is very much into our family tree, and they've just told me that I'm apparently 35% Viking and 23% Irish. So if you add those two together, that makes me European. So I think that's my qualification to talk about GDPR today, hopefully. Let me quickly tell you a bit about the Global Cyber Alliance. So the Centre for Internet Security speaks for itself. They're all about making the internet more secure. But one morning, the District Attorney of New York and the City of London Police woke up and said, hey, cybercrime is just getting out of control. It's more than normal crime. Both of those organisations, as you know, are responsible for cyber and fraud, not only in two of the biggest financial centres in the world, but in the case of the UK, the City of London Police are responsible for all UK fraud prosecutions. They realised that normal policing techniques simply aren't working, as in chasing people after and arresting them. Cybercrime is getting big. So they decided to found a GCA, and our mission is to stop systemic cybercrime at source. So really my job is to go and clean up the internet. I've been doing this job for 6 weeks. I haven't achieved it yet, so I need to stay here a little bit longer. So for today, somebody from the UK come to talk about GDPR. So I come bearing gifts. So today I give you 3 things to help to clean up the internet. So I'm absolutely not selling anything today, and nor would I be. And part of that ethos is that we are actually all in this together. A whole lot of people today have talked about collaboration and the fact there's a whole lot of bad people on the internet trying to attack our businesses, our economy, our people, our data. So one of the ethos of the Global Cyber Alliance is to be inclusive, to bring together those people who want to fight against cybercrime. We have several members around the world, and we've onboarded 5 new members and partners and countries only over the past few weeks, so I won't dwell on that too much. And clearly we've got, without naming the organisations, we've covered a whole load of sectors and a whole load of countries around the world. So again, that's, I think, my point, that although we were started from London and New York, we're genuinely a global organisation and quite a lot of activity here in Europe. So to talk about GDPR, and as someone said today, that the GDPR Act is quite a thick and complicated document. So there's a challenge. Everybody at this conference today has been saying that it is inevitable that you will be hacked. But I think we all know that with GDPR, and there's some debate around this, but there's talk that the fines could be 20 million or 4% of your global turnover. So if you just read both of those facts, that kind of says it's inevitable that I'm going to pay, or you will all pay, a really big fine. Now, my understanding of the Act is that if you read through it, GDPR says you should take reasonable steps to protect yourself against cyber attack. So I'm not a lawyer, but the word reasonable is a good word to me. And that is how I think that those scales of justice balance out. That if you've done something reasonable and you get cyber attacked, then the chances of you being fined or the size of that fine are reduced. So I guess there's a point for the conference to debate, but let me help you to unpack that. So, as I said, my mission is to address systemic causes of cybercrime and cyber risk. So what have we been doing about that? So first of all, I think we all know that phishing is arguably one of the biggest causes of cybercrime. There's ransomware, there's mandate fraud, but we all know that if somebody wants to get an advanced persistent threat onto your device, if they can't get a USB stick into your laptop, then to send you a link and click on that link to deploy a virus, deploy malware, deploy a cyber attack is one of the most common attacks. I've heard statistics today and in the industry ranging between 60 and 80% of cyber attacks are caused by phishing. But then I hear the same statistic around changing your password strength. So certainly you should change your password strength, and we should all do things to combat phishing. One thing which a lot of people aren't fully aware of is a solution called Demark. So Demark and its family of configurations are things which you can configure within your email domain to effectively prove that you are on email who you say you are. Without Demark being configured, I could go on the internet and I could pretend to be your organization. And in fact, lots of email fraud and spoofing and phishing scams happen today because people are genuinely doing that. The internet was built in I guess, a happy world where everybody trusted each other. And you can do the same with the postal system. I can send a letter pretending to be from your address, and people don't really check that out. The internet works the same way. If you switch on Demark, then you can definitely cut the majority of phishing problems and the majority of mandate fraud and email issues. So what have we, the GCA, done with Demark? It's not something we've invented. It's been a standard on the internet for many years now. What we've done is we've built some tools to help people to configure Demark. So straight away you can go to our website and work out whether you've configured Demark correctly in your organization. In fact, anybody can do that. But more importantly, we have a wizard. And the wizard, if you tell us your configuration, shows you how to configure your email system so that you can switch on Demark. Now, my dream is that everybody configures Demark, and then every email you get, you know it's absolutely come from the person who says it's come from. Now, we need to spread the word across the world to get that message out there, but every organization who switches Demark on is partly protecting themselves, but also partly, if you like, lifting the tide of cyber defense around the planet. So I won't dwell on this, but to give you some examples, if you're on cloud-based security already or cloud-based email, Demark is often configured by default. So a lot of the big cloud providers, and we've heard some conversations today about moving to cloud, if you move with the cloud providers, I've mentioned some of them there, other cloud providers are naturally available, then Demark is configured today. So hence, very little for you to do. But you do still need to check that you've got Demark configured, because there are sometimes some configuration settings you need to use there. So if we look at Aetna, Aetna is a good example here, and I think the thing to pull out from the slides is that 60 million fraudulent emails were stopped from being delivered. So here's a good example of a business, along with the following the banks and the internet service providers' recommendation, that's by switching that on, they can actually go to market and have quoted that 60 million emails were stopped. Another really good example in the UK, HMRC. So HMRC is our tax collection authority. So 300 million phishing emails were stopped from being fraudulently sent using their email address. So this is people pretending to be the British government. So I should say that the British government is recommending all government departments to switch on Demark, and only this week we did a major press announcement where we'd worked with the US government, and the US government Department of Homeland Security have now implemented Demark. I will say it isn't as simple as simply switching the thing on, because if you're using external mail providers, so MailChimp and things like that, you need to know about those configurations. So please don't switch Demark on at the highest level straight away on day one, otherwise some things will stop working. It's a gradual process, it's free to enable, but you do need to get your people and your techies to look at the reports, analyze Demark, check that they've got it configured correctly. But in essence, it's a tool that's out there in the industry. Configuring it is free. The implementation is something where maybe you need to invest a few weeks of resource. In the case of HMRC, it was a significantly longer project than that, but they've got quite a lot of email boxes and 60 million staff. And then because we are global, not just London and New York and not just European, so we've now configured the Demark configuration wizard in several languages, including, as you can see there, Japanese, Mandarin, Cantonese, etc. And we're going to roll these configurations out to as many languages as we can. Again, all of this is simply on our website. We don't charge anything. We're funded by altruistic donors. So again, back to my first point, we're here to give things away. So kind of please tell your friends, please tell your organizations, everybody on the planet, really, if you switch Demark on, you reduce fraud, you reduce phishing massively, as you've seen from those two examples. So far, I mean, the statistics speak for themselves there, but 9,400 users of today use the setup guide. I guess my problem is, I think there's around 150 million businesses on the planet. There's certainly 48,000 businesses registered on the stock exchanges of the planet. So although we only launched around actually a year ago, so that's not nearly the penetration of the whole world. As you've seen, because the big cloud providers use this service already, then maybe we don't need to go all the distance to get every 150 million in there. But it's starting to pick up pretty well. And of those people who've used the wizard, many have converted, switched Demark on, and we've got loads of other statistics we haven't been able to publish yet, saying how they've reduced their email fraud, they've reduced spam, they've reduced phishing. Moving on to our second project, and by the way, what I should say is the Global Cyber Alliance, we're not just about talking about things, so we do give lots of good free cyber advice, but then we go out and build things. So one of my frustrations and one of the reasons why I joined the GCA was there were loads of people at loads of conferences who tell you how to go and do things, but then don't really do much themselves. So our ethos is to build things, we then give them out into the shareware community, we put them on GitHub, so we allow other people to go use those tools. So again, back to Demark, if you want to use our tools for yourselves or you want to have the source code, we can happily give those kind of things away. Moving on to our second project, so I think everybody in the tech and cyber community is aware of DNS, Domain Name Service. So what we've done is produced an Internet Immune Service powered by DNS. without going too much into the diagram, but effectively the conversation is that your DNS query goes to our platform. So we take on board, it's now up to 19 threat feeds. I think the slides say 18. So we get threat feeds from open source providers and from commercial providers. So we pay for these threat feeds. We run them through an algorithm, so we compare and contrast, and then we build a really big blacklist. So the blacklist, when I checked in yesterday, has exceeded 1 million URLs, 1 million addresses. So the point of this service is if you or any of your users click on a link or go to a URL, and that URL is going to give you a virus, or it's a criminal website, or it's going to mount an APT on your organization, we stop you getting there. So this isn't censorship, this isn't content control. So you can see as much radicalization, pornography, pedophilia, etc., etc. The point of this service is, if you were going to go to a URL that would take your business down, that is a criminal website, we stop you getting there. So the first point there is we're operationalization, if I could say that, threat intelligence. So we take that threat intelligence, we bring it together. And again, the point of this is, if we get threat intel from one provider, we're less likely to implement that. If all 20 threat providers agree, then we definitely put that on the blacklist. So part of the magic and part of the thing we've developed here is our algorithm that compares and contrasts all the different threat feeds, because clearly it would be bad if somebody accidentally injected, let's say, Facebook into one of our threat feeds and we shut Facebook down. So one of my missions here is to convince not only as many organizations to use our DNS, there are lots of other free DNS services that do things similar to this out there on the internet, but maybe also to convince the internet service providers. Because if you think, what has every business got? Almost everybody, actually everybody who's connected to the internet must by definition have an internet service provider. So if there are any internet service providers in the room or out there, and you want to offer your customers a free DNS filtering service, then it comes from us. There are other services out there, and from the point of view from the GCA, if you choose to use another competing DNS filtering service, I'm quite fine with that because I'm absolutely not selling this service. But I think back to the earlier point about GDPR, to not use any of these services, some of which you pay for, some of which is free, to me doesn't seem like you've taken reasonable care to protect yourself. So again, in the new world of GDPR coming along next year, my view is it's unreasonable not to have done anything, particularly now there are free tools there. If I talk quickly about the difference between our tools and some others, and again, this plays very strongly to GDPR, we don't keep any personal information. So as I think you all know, under European data protection, IP addresses aren't declared as PII. Under GDPR, they are. So we do not keep any IP address information, so we don't know who's actually using our service, we don't know where they've come from, so we don't have that information to be able to give away. So that's the good news. I guess the bad news with that is that means naturally we can't provide any reporting. So other people who give away free DNS services sometimes maybe sell you adverts, that's how they make money, or they know what you're doing, they know what you're shopping, they know what you're browsing. So we absolutely do none of that. We're a genuinely international NGO organization. We're not affiliated to any nation state or any nation state regulation as far as is possible. So you can use our service, it's free, we don't look at what you're doing, we don't sell that data on to anyone else. Which to me I think is not only an advantage, but with GDPR, you know that the IP addresses in your browsing history hasn't been used by us. So our service today is in pilot. As you can see there, we're currently blocking 1 million hits a day. We said already that there's 1 million domains in the lists, the blacklist. Clearly the blacklist varies on a daily basis. Sometimes these websites get taken down by law enforcement and other good actors in the world, and then of course they spring up somewhere else. So around 1 million so far. As I said, 18 threat intelligence feeds, we're soon going to be at 19, we'll soon be at 20. We've got our resolvers because we partnered with the packet clearing house deployed on 5 continents, so we've got high resilience here. And one example of an adopter saw a 50% decrease in AV alerts simply by switching to this service, and a 30% decrease in IDS alerts. And we've seen other things that other customers are able to quote. So today we're in pilot. I'm pleased to say we will be launching on the 16th of November. So there's something really cool that I can't actually tell you about today. I so wish I could, but on the 16th of November, we've got something incredibly cool that will just make this so easy to remember and so easy for people to be able to go and use. But before we get to that point, as I said, we partnered with Packet Clearing House, so this is a snap from their website. If you are suspicious about a domain, even if you don't use our service, you can type it in onto our website and check whether it's on our blacklist or not. So if you're from law enforcement, that's useful for investigation. If you're from an ISP and you're suspicious about a website, you can go and use that. Maybe we develop an API around that to make it more industrial as we go forward. But this allows you to go and, if you're suspicious about a phishing link or somebody sent a phishing link to your IT department, it allows you to check our database so you then know what we know. But of course, my recommendation would be if you use our DNS service, then you know that automatically. So, as I said already, we launch on the 16th of November. Please tune in. Please put that date in your diary. Please either email us at the GCA or follow me on Twitter, Andy Cyberbaits. Lucky that my middle initial has got a C in it, so that makes sense as well. Don't tell my mother, please. So, to go back to GDPR, and I think we've kind of mentioned this already, that if something's free and you don't use that free thing to protect yourself, is it reasonable? Okay, if you've gone and paid for one of these services already, then great. But if you've done nothing, and the regulators, the government, the whoever, knows that there's a free thing out there that you could have adopted, but you just chose to ignore it, my view is that that's not reasonable. As I say, I'm not a lawyer. I have some lawyers checking that statement out just to see how confident we are on that. But again, if you get hacked under the GDPR regulation via another means, so it's not a phishing attack, it's not something that we could have stopped, but you didn't use a free thing, does it show a mature cyber attitude? So my hypothesis for today, I guess, that I give out to the floor and to the audience is that if there are free things out there, please use them, whether they're from me, whether they're from other services out there. If you don't do that and you are hit under GDPR, I think the regulator is going to say, you had an opportunity to go do something to protect yourself, you've not really taken as many opportunities as you can. So no longer, I think, cost is an excuse to have inaction. So just to conclude where we go next, we do have an IoT project which we'll be bringing to market pretty soon. As I said, the whole ethos of Global Cyber Alliance is to build things to make the internet safer. So we've developed the DNS service. We again put that out on GitHub, and we're putting that out to the internet for people to use for free. We move on to IoT. But actually, a lot of the conversations around the audience today at today's conference have been people saying, why doesn't somebody go and do something about that thing? So I'd like you to leave thinking, not only do we have some free stuff I'd like you to use, we are those people. We have over 160 members now, big organizations as well as small. It's free to come and join us, but the entry criteria to join the GCA and to be one of our partners, and in fact some of our partners are in the audience today and will be speaking later on, is that you're helping with our mission to make the internet safer. So if you wake up in the morning and think, why doesn't somebody do something about this internet problem? Give us a call, come and join us, share your ideas with us. I'm not going to sit here now as exec director and promise that I'm going to go and build those things tomorrow and the internet will be slightly safer. But you know, if we all gang together, if one of you thinks this would cost $1 million or €1 million to go and solve and you don't have that $1 million, there's bound to be another 100 people who are in the same situation as you. So if we can pool our resources and share together, our job and my job is to be a catalyst to bring like-minded people together, also then to bring together funding pools and resources as much as we can, build those things, deploy them on the internet, and let everybody else use them. So as I said at the start, and I'll say again at the end, you're not alone. We'll work with you to build those common solutions to these global problems. Thank you very much. Hope that all made sense. If not, any questions from the massive audience here in Latvia?
If I can ask a quick question. Obviously, one of the things that people are coming back with Demark is the fact that it's filtering out potentially some good stuff. Have you got any guidance or advice regarding that as to how people have adopted it, have overcome that?
Yes, so it's easy to switch it on at the lowest level straight away, and I'm not going to go in techie geek mode because I'm probably no longer qualified to do that. Switch it on at the easiest level, then move it into the quarantine stage. So at least at that stage you get reports to know what's going on. As I said, one of the biggest examples, things like MailChimp, those kind of things where people are mailing on behalf of your organisation. So your organisation, I believe, is bobsbusiness.com, yeah?
That's correct.
So somebody could be out there mailing...
.co.uk.
.co.uk, well done. Somebody could be out there for remembering your own company. Somebody could be out there emailing us bobsbusiness.co.uk legitimately on your behalf. MailChimp, email distribution, invoicing companies, your accountancy company. There's a million potential uses. If you switch it into quarantine, you'll see those things happening. You'll see the reports. There'll be no damage. You can look at the reports. You can then tune your configuration. Wait a while. Wait for the monthly things to happen. Wait for things that happen every quarter. Maybe even wait a year for things to happen every year. HMRC certainly took longer than a year to implement, but you've seen that they literally have hundreds, millions of emails. I mean, as we said on the slides, they stopped 300 million false emails. What you're trying to do is stop that bad person, probably somewhere else in the world, emailing as your name at bobsbusiness.co.uk. And to find the good ones, you simply need to run the reports, wait long enough, put that back into the configuration, and then you're in a safe place to go to the final level, which is reject.
And with regards to the thing that's been released on 16th of November, any more details regarding that?
I will get not only sacked, but then hunted down like a dog if I were to give you any more clues. Other than the 16th of November, you need to tune in to all available channels and frequencies to hear what we've got to say. Launches in New York, London, and maybe Mozambique, because we're global. You're now going to torture me now to get those details out, aren't you? Or just ply me with vodka or anything. Yeah. Any more questions? Good. Hope that was useful. I'm dying to have a show of hands to see. Actually, why not? Show of hands to see who's got Demark configured in their organisation. Think you have. Think you have. Think I checked. Yeah. Good. You have. DNS filtering, everybody? Yeah. Do you have commercial services or free to use? And I guess there were some free-to-use services that I won't name as we're live that, of course, been bought by big global names, and then, you know, those kind of things change. So maybe, sir, you can save some money and then spend that money elsewhere in the world of cyber defense. I guess they're still higher than free, though, aren't they? But again, I'm not here to sell my free product. Thank you very much.